One last point before we go, because we got a couple of minutes here. You know, I've been critical lately of replay review. I think the replay process is broken. I think whoever is in charge of reviewing the available angles, because we don't know exactly who it is. And that's not me. That's an NFL head coach said to me, I don't know who's making these decisions, and I don't know who's in the room when these decisions are being made. So who can ever be accountable for a bad decision? I believe they've gotten away from the clear and obvious standard. That is something I've been saying for weeks now. What is happening is whoever is making the decision is taking their judgment based on a fresh look at the play and substituting that judgment for the judgment that was exercised in real time by the officials. Last night it was different. Last night, I think they over-applied the clear and obvious standard. I think they expected the evidence to be more clear and obvious than it was. And I apologize if some way my ranting about clear and obvious freaked them out and caused them to raise the bar higher than it should be. Because my point is, hey, owners, the league office has gone rogue here with the rule book. They're not applying the clear and obvious standard. They're overturning stuff based upon what they think happened. That's not the standard. The standard is clear and obvious. And I say that because the Kyle Pitts touchdown last night, the elbow hit at the same time the ass hit. You know the saying, you don't know your ass from the elbow. I don't think they knew his ass from his elbow last night when they were looking at that play, Michael, and I don't know if we have it, but because I just kind of went there on my own. But here it is. Oh, very well. Oh, very well done.
Look at that. No, we don't know if we have it. I got it right here.
What you want, a cookie? What you want, a cookie?
You're supposed to.
But the butt and the elbow hit at the same time. And if that's the case, what is it, Michael? If the elbow hits when the butt hits, what is it? And is it clear and obvious that the elbow hits as the butt hits? I think the elbow's out before the butt's out. And here's the elbow's out before the butt's in, isn't it? Isn't it? The elbow hits the white before the ass hits the orange. And so it doesn't have to be crystal clear and completely obvious. What's the word? Painfully obvious. The standard isn't crystal clear and painfully obvious. It's just plain old clear and obvious. And I think it was clear and obvious that the elbow hit when the ass hit. He's out of bounds. It's not a catch. And that to me, that's against my interest. Nobody cares about your fantasy team, but I had Kyle Pitts last night, so I wanted that third touchdown. I wanted it. So I'm like, oh, you got to give that to him. You got to give it to him. And then when it's done, it's like, you know what? They probably shouldn't have given it to him. They probably made the bar too high to overturn the ruling on the field.
Mike, how would they explain that as they come back after further review? The receiver's elbow was out before his ass landed, and therefore there is no touchdown. I just don't know how they would come back and call that. But they you know what they're doing though, in all seriousness, what they're looking at on some of these calls, and this is I can't believe we're getting into the minutia of this. They got to address it. What they're doing is they're not following their own script or their own verbiage on what constitutes a catch. They're giving players that first, when the ball touches, we've seen it in a lot of games here. Saw it, I think Green Bay, Detroit on Thanksgiving. Saw another one last week. When the ball hits the hand, before there's control, when the ball hits the hand of the receiver, in many cases they're giving the receiver credit for a step right there, even though they don't necessarily have control of it. And then another body part comes in and they said, okay, there it is. That's two. Well, that's one. Because the ball hit his hand, but he hadn't secured the catch yet. And so I think that's what happened last night when Kyle Pitts is kind of stumbling backwards and he just kind of makes contact with the ball. They counted that as one, and then a foot comes down, and then the elbow out of bounds, and then at that point, they're giving him 3 or 4, and he really didn't have 2. He really didn't have 2 down. They gave it to him. Good for the Falcons, but that probably shouldn't have held up.
Here's the reality, and this was an issue on Monday and into Tuesday because of what happened in the Steelers-Ravens game. The two things that are going on, and I spoke to somebody who is was involved in this process and understands the rules better than I ever will, which is a low bar. But clear and obvious is not being adhered to, and the catch rule, when they finally figured out the catch rule, and this controversy just went away, one of the things they added was the third step. That if you take the third step, we no longer have to figure out whether or not a football move was made, an act common to the game, extending the ball, tucking the ball, warding off an opponent, the things that were know it when you see it, but sometimes we didn't quite know what we were seeing, and it jumbled up the whole, because, 11 years ago, Des Bryant made a football move after he caught the ball and got both feet down. He made a football move. He was trying to lunge it and extend it toward the end zone, and the ruling on the field was he caught it, and somebody decided there was clear and obvious evidence that he hadn't. So that third step now has become the crutch, and they don't look for anything else. Bijan Robinson last night, that fumble, that wasn't a catch. If that's a catch, then Isaiah Likely absolutely caught the ball.
Yes, good point.
If this is a catch, okay, I'll stipulate this as a catch. If that's a catch, Isaiah Likely has even more reason to be pissed off. If he had this ball long enough to complete the process, then Isaiah Likely had it 3 times long enough to complete the process.
Yes, he did. Because there's 1, 2 football move, and they say that's a catch. So Isaiah Likely did more than that. Isaiah Likely had 1, 2, almost 3 as the football move is extending the ball away from the defender. So if that's a catch and a fumble from Robinson, then yes, that was a touchdown from Likely last week against the Steelers.
And that was my point coming out of Monday night's game. If Jalen Hurts had the ball long enough to fumble it on the play when he recovered the fumble after he threw the interception, if he had it long enough to fumble it, because it's the same rule. Control of the ball 2 feet down, and you make a football move, perform an act common to the game, or have enough time to do so, or take an additional step. If he had it long enough to recover it and fumble it, then Isaiah Likely had it. And some of the pushback was, oh, that clearly was a fumble. That's not my point. My point is, if it was, then Likely caught it. If Jalen Hurts had it long enough to fumble it and become the first guy in recorded statistical history to have 2 turnovers on 1 play, then Likely had a touchdown. That's all I'm saying. It just shows how ridiculous that outcome was. All right.
And do we know this?
Oh, I got one more. Go ahead.
Good. No, I was going to ask quickly. Do we know if nobody knows? The coach said to you, who's making these decisions? Who's in the room? Is it the same room? Okay, is it the same room last night for Bucks Falcons that you had for Steelers Ravens? Because that could explain it too. Oh yeah. This judge says, oh, no, that's a catch from Robinson. And this judge says, this is the more strict judge in the Ravens Steelers room. I'm like, is it the same group? Is it like 4 or 5 people? Is it 25 people? 30? What is it? And that I'd love to know that. And I'm sure coaches would as well, just so they know what the standard. There's got to be a standard that we can all live by. We don't have to agree with it, but at least we know what's coming.
You make an excellent point, Michael, and let me just go down memory lane here because, when you're covering this actively, constantly, and you've done it for, unfortunately, a long time because that means, I'm old. But I remember how this all happened. It used to be the decisions were made on replay review by the referee. When they bring that tablet out now, that's just product placement. That's just a prop. That referee has no say whatsoever in the decision that's being made. It used to be the referee, the crew chief, the white hat. That's the person who would make the decision. And the problem was you got 17 different referees. You may have 17 different interpretations of what is or isn't clear and obvious. So they got this bright idea. We're going to centralize it. It was controversial. We're going to centralize replay. So somebody sitting hundreds, if not thousands of miles away is going to make the decision about what happened in this game. Why did we do it? Because we want one person and one person only to be making these decisions all the time. So that person will always apply the right standard, and that person will develop an institutional knowledge within his own brain. And that person was Dean Blandino. They set it up for Blandino. They created it for Blandino, but because they're too cheap, sorry, 345, you know it. They didn't value that position. Blandino said that himself on the record in an interview with me in 2017. They didn't value that position the way they should. He went to Fox, and they were put in a bad spot. And, you know, they have Al River on as the guy. Sorry, didn't work. And now we don't know who it is. Is it one person? I don't know. Who is it? Is it Mark Butterworth? Who's he? I don't know. Is it Perry Fuel? Maybe it's him. I don't know. Is Troy Vincent barnstorming in and tipping the scales? I don't know. And look, I just want to be sure, because I want to have a nice normal Friday here. I got a lot to do. We're getting close to Christmas. I don't want to spend the time on the phone with NBC for 2 hours because somebody doesn't like what I'm about to say. All I'm saying is I've had it speculated to me by at least one head coach, or at least the question raised, is the commissioner in there making the decisions? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. That's a problem. It should be one person all the time. And, Michael, you know what they need to do? You know what they need to do? They need to pull back the curtains and do what the ACC does. Let's see. Let's see.
Great.
Let's hear. Now we know how they came to the decision, whether or not they know Kyle Pitts asked from his elbow. We know. And are they just afraid that they're incompetent and they don't want people to hear this? Because it's like, we're not so we're not so sure you're going to want to hear this. So there's still plenty of improvement that can be had.
That's the best way to do it.
Because the mess is coming. One of these days, it's going to blow up on them. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.